Today we're going to be installing the all-new XD Pro Series double outrigger kit from Tigress on my boat. Now, some updated things with the Tigress kit is the all-new Hayward locks that they have. These are really high quality. You can see the overall form, the finish looks really nice. So impressed with this. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of start opening this up and getting ready to install it. I'm gonna show you guys how I install it and kind of little things that I do to make it look just a little bit nicer and also just make it function a little bit better. So I've got the XD carbon outriggers from Tigress with the XD mounts on there as well. Everything Tigress on my boat. All right, so you can see here on my T-top, I've got the XD mounts, the XD carbon fiber riggers. One thing that you want to make sure is that on the outriggers themselves, there's little eyelets facing the rear of the boat. So that way when you're trolling, you've got everything on this side of the outrigger. So one really nice thing about the XD mounts is there's a lot of different places that you can set it. It'll lock in place. Very easy to use, very easy to set up. You've got tons of adjustability up here as well. So you can adjust your angle on the outriggers as well as adjust where you want it in terms of the base pointing the outriggers. Normally, for me, I'm just kind of straight off the side there. I'm gonna run the 400-pound mono through the outriggers down to the base, and then you'll see where I'm gonna do from there. All right, so now I have the mono ran down the outriggers through the eyelets on the back side of the outrigger. Remember, I want the eyelets to be facing the back of the boat. And then I'm gonna run the mono through the howler locks. Now, this is an important part. I've already got the attachments on the boat that come with the kit, the little eyelets, so you can attach the lock to the side of the boat when you're running the outriggers out. The big thing for me too is I wanna make sure that my outrigger is at the angle that I'm normally going to have the outrigger at. So if the outrigger, obviously, the angle is super flat here, this line tension is going to be different if I change that. So I want to make it tight, and I want to set up the outrigger the way that I normally would use it when I'm trolling. So in terms of length, I want to leave a little bit of extra on here, have a little bit extra to work with. Don't want to cut it too short here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that mono there. So now you can see I've got both ends of the mono from the end of the outrigger, from the outside in, and I'm going to put a stopper ball on the mono like that. And what that's going to do is stop the outrigger clips from hitting into the eyelets on the outrigger and avoid from pulling through it. All right, so I went ahead and just rigged this up really quickly so you guys can see what it looks like. I've got my stopper ball, I've got my crimp that I put some heat shrink over, and then I've got my swivel, snap swivel there that then attaches to the outrigger clip. Now, the reason that we put snap swivels on the line is that allows me to change out the clip, the outrigger clip. If something happens to the outrigger clip, let's say it breaks or there's an issue, I can change out the outrigger clip without having to change all the mono and do the entire rigging all over again. So that's why we're using the snap swivels to attach the outrigger clips. Now, same idea on this side. I'm going to put my heat shrink there that I can put over the crimp later on. So I've got my snap swivel, I've got my crimp, and then I've got my heat shrink. You don't need to do the heat shrink if you don't want to. It's not a big deal. I just do it just because I think it looks better just to have that black covering up the crimp. Makes everything look a little bit more finished and cleaner when you put that heat shrink on there just to protect it. So I've got my snap swivel, and I'm gonna run the mono, just like this, back through that crimp. So this can get a little difficult, so what I suggest is to put the snap swivel on the clip itself, run the mono through that, and you can see how I can make it tight by doing it that way, and then running the mono through the crimp to get that needed pressure. Tight, but I don't want it too tight that I can't pull it through the eye easily. So just leave a little bit of slack. So now I'm gonna pull that crimp up, and you guys can see that that line is tight there. I've got my stopper, I've got everything all lined up there. I can close that swivel there, and we are good to go. We're ready for action at this point. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of tighten that up a little bit more there and push that crimp up. And once I push that crimp up, I can really get it tight. So you can see my Hayward lock is there already attached to the boat. So now I've got that perfect kind of V and everything's nice and tight. So I'm gonna go ahead and again crimp this crimp here, put my heat shrink over it, and then I'll be done with my first line. Remember, we only got 2 lines, 2 clips, so I'm only gonna run this first line, and then we'll set up for the second one here. So obviously we're gonna be running 2 clips. So we have a long clip on the outrigger, and then we're gonna have a medium to short clip. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run the mono through this second eyelet on the outrigger. So on the long, we ran the mono through the first eyelet. On the mid to short clip, we're gonna run it through the second eyelet. So instead of having that full length, we're only gonna come to this second eyelet. That'll allow us to run the 2 clips at different lengths and not have them get all tangled up and crossed up. So I'm gonna run my mono through that second eyelet on the outrigger, down the outrigger, and then to the lock, and do the same exact thing that we did on the long, basically. See that I've got my long tight here, making sure everything's still in line, no tangles or anything like that. I'm looking in the eyes to make sure that it's not tangled up or looking all crazy or crossed over. I'm gonna go ahead and take the mono that I already ran through the locks, make sure that it's not tangled up with the long, beautiful. Put my snap swivel on the release clip there. That way it's all set up, ready to go. I've already got my crimp on the mono. I'm gonna pull that through, create another loop on this end. This is the end that's closer to the boat. So you can see you got my stopper ball, my crimp, my snap swivel, my release clip, and my snap swivel again here. And I'm gonna pull this baby through here. You can use the crimp itself to make it tight, pulling that extra mono through there and just kind of getting it tight there. So it looks good here. We're not tangled up. We're getting tighter. I don't want to put any extra pressure on the outriggers themselves. So if you do see that your outriggers are bending, obviously the lines are too tight. You don't want them too tight so you can't pull them through, pull them in and out there. You can see how easy that is to pull it out. There's a fine line between too tight and tight enough. And you can see there, I've got it all dialed in and ready. So I'm gonna go ahead and just crimp this and we're done at that point. I'm not trying to crimp the ends. I'm trying to crimp in the middle so that way I don't cut the mono. There's no need to crimp the ends. We're really just crimping kind of the middle of that crimp, and it's gonna be plenty tight to hold this down. All right, so there you have it. I've got my stopper ball, I've got my crimp, I've got my snap swivel, I've got my release clip, and I've got my snap swivel on the bottom with another crimp as well. So it looks good, very clean, very simple. Like I said, you wanna make sure that everything's nice and uniform, everything's nice and tight. Spending a little bit of extra time now to make sure that everything isn't tangled, everything is nice and easy to pull through is gonna make it much easier when you're out there fishing and it's rough and you don't wanna have to deal with it's tangled up. You wanna be able to pull that through there easily and just get it right out there and get your bait in the water. All right, so there you have it. I've got the outriggers ready to go. We're ready to go fish. Everything you need is going to come with the kit that Tigress offers. Everything is gonna be right in there. You've got your ball stops. You got everything ready to go. You got your swivels. You got it all right there in the kit. Very easy, very simple. It probably took me, I would say it took me 10 minutes to do this if I wasn't filming a video. So it's not hard to do. It just takes a little bit of time. Like I said, you want to make sure that everything's nice and streamlined. Everything's very tight and orderly. So that way when you're out there fishing, it makes it that much easier to be able to pull those lines in and out. And I really do like the new Hayward clip that they have from Tigress. In the past, we've had some, I'd say just like kind of a pulley on there, and the pulley sometimes can get a little tricky. And now with the Hayward lock, I can lock the line exactly where I want my bait at or where I want my line coming off the outrigger. And it's a nice little upgrade from Tigress by doing that, by having that double Hayward lock there. And everything else looks good as well. So I'm ready to get out there and fish. Should be pretty good for some trolling in the next few days. I'll make a video showing the outriggers in action really soon, so make sure you guys stay tuned, hit that subscribe button, all that fun stuff down below. If you have any questions at all, leave a comment down below. Also, Tigress is very good. You can give them a call. You can email the guys at Tigress as well to learn more about their outrigger systems and their outrigger kits. So there it is. I'll talk to you guys later on.